law enforcement had this information in hand, Leon Tripp automatically became a wanted person, and officers got a warrant for his arrest on kidnapping charges. Finally, the truth was slowly coming to light. But there was just one person who didn't seem okay with any of this, and that person was Tanya Tripp, Janelle's mother.
She did show concern for her daughter, but when I asked her, hey, investigators believe that he's taken her, she was very defensive.
Everyone was concerned about Tanya's reaction to the news. I mean, obviously, she didn't want to think the worst of her husband, but at the same time, she had to understand that he was the one linked to her daughter's disappearance. So, shouldn't she be a bit more concerned? Was she blinded by love? Was she in denial? Was she delusional? Or was it something much worse? However, soon after that, it didn't take too long for things to make sense and for the pieces of this puzzle to come together. As investigators followed through and connected the dots, they naturally came to find Leon Tripp at a U-Haul facility in DeKalb County. And sure enough, the man was not alone, because right beside his side, there was Tanya Tripp herself.
We were extremely shocked when we found her and him actually together. And that's when we really got that sick feeling that, this case is really not heading in a good direction.
But according to Tanya at the time, she had a reason to be there. And she said she just so happened to be going to Atlanta and suddenly found Leon there by accident. But at this point, no one was buying her stories anymore, and Leon was quickly arrested on kidnapping charges, while Tanya was charged with hindering the apprehension of a criminal. Still, the one question that remained, that everybody was still wondering, where was Janelle? Now, while the authorities kept trying to find answers to this question, other clues began to become clearer. For example, when Tanya told the police that Janelle and her stepdad had gone missing while going to Clarksville, South Carolina, what Tanya was actually doing was just sending the authorities in the wrong direction, buying more time for Leon to take Janelle wherever it was that he had taken her. Moreover, it was discovered that Tanya didn't have cancer at all. She had just made the whole thing up. This revelation obviously got many people upset, and Tanya just kept digging herself into a deeper and deeper hole of lies. As she was processed, she gave different interviews with slightly different stories. It was clear by then, though, that she was not sticking to the truth, whatever the truth was. And to make things even more complicated, Tanya's stories began to conflict with Leon's. While Tanya sustained that her partner and Janelle had gone to South Carolina, Leon, on the other hand, was saying that he had actually taken Janelle to Atlanta. Then when authorities confronted Tanya with Leon's story, she didn't know what to say.
Come to find out that she only had that initial story. She never prepared for the follow-ups.
In this big web of made-up stories that had little truth in them, it was hard for authorities to determine what had actually happened to Janelle. Two things, however, were clear. Tanya and Leon had something to do with the teenager's disappearance, and Janelle's case was no longer a missing persons investigation, but a homicide one. After all, prosecutors claimed that in one of his interviews, Leon had said that Janelle was no longer alive. Was this true? Or was it just another made-up story? Disturbingly, the truth came to light a little less than a year later, in late March 2018. This truth wasn't pretty, and it was definitely not what people were expecting.
We received a phone call from a citizen and had discovered what they believed to be human remains.
When an unlucky resident of Augusta, Georgia was checking out the backyard of a vacant home, he came across a bone sticking up from a shallow grave. He, of course, quickly called the authorities to help him determine what was going on. And, to their surprise, those bones were the remains of Janelle Carwell. Since Janelle had gone to the dentist a few days before her birthday, authorities were able to identify her from dental records. Both Tanya and Leon were charged with murder. In fact, Leon even got the death penalty. But finding Janelle's body was not enough. The reason for this unfortunate death was still not clear, and no one really knew how Janelle's remains ended up in the backyard. The one thing, though, that started to become evident was that somehow Leon and Tanya were trying to get rid of Janelle. And how did the authorities figure that out? Well, It took a while to reach that conclusion, but finally, with enough proof, a motion was filed in June of 2020 by the prosecutors of this case, claiming that Leon and Tanya had unsuccessfully attempted to use a hitman against their own daughter on 3 different occasions, one in September of 2015, then 3 months later in December 2015, and one more time in October 2016. Why would these parents do that? Well, as of right now, no one really knows for sure, as this case is still open, but it is quite shocking to see how these attempts are so close in proximity to Janelle's 16th birthday in the first quarter of 2017. Perhaps they decided to take matters into their own hands after this hitman failed them multiple times. As of now though, Leon and Tanya are still in jail, waiting for their respective separate trials that have been constantly pushed back, probably due to C-19 and the fact that Leon had changed attorneys more than a couple of times. It seems unlikely that these two will ever tell the public why they did what they did. I mean, they're not expert liars, but they're surely stubborn when it comes to standing by their made-up stories. As for the community of Richmond County in Augusta, Georgia, Janelle's absence left a hole in their hearts, but the efforts they made were not in vain, even when Tanya didn't even have the best of intentions, and all the unused reward money they collected was used to award the Janelle Carwell Scholarship to 3 high school students in 2019, the year that Janelle was supposed to graduate and start college to one day become a doctor. However, Janelle's bright and charming personality definitely left a mark in the lives of many people, and they just hope that justice is swiftly served to punish those who hurt her.